Alright, let's try this again. This is the recording of the most recent Lightning Returns Normal % run. Unfortunately, the first 80 minutes or so do not have game audio, so it will just be my voice and some background music, just to explain what is going on. So let's head right in. Thunder, 2 blizzards, 5 thunders to stagger this first guy. Side note here, you want your first thunder to have a damage total of 140 or higher. In the grander scheme of things, this doesn't really matter in the run, but since it's still early, makes for an easy reset point. Just attack one of the niblets, either or, to begin. They should go down in 4 or 5 thunders. The previous full recording does have some corrupted audio involved, so that is why I am re-recording this. The second Anubis strat is slightly different, where you want to instead attack and stagger him through a perfect guard. Getting rid of the minimap here just to save a few frames. A little shortcut over the banister. And just cancel out of the shop as fast as you can. We don't need to go through any tutorials. And we just continue running for a bit through the tutorial palace here. So this run showcases my first ever sub 2-hour run. I'll try and explain the details behind my decisions here and there. Game audio should return at about the hour and 20-minute mark. Shoutouts to many fellow streamers, runners, and routers that helped us get this far. Sub 2 was once thought as an impossibility, but eventually, through optimal routing, we have reached this milestone. Speedrun.com/LRFFXIII if you want to learn more. But we're coming up to our first so-called boss battle. Thunder, 2 blizzards, 5 thunders. Attacks, guard, then overclocking to another 5 attacks. We do want to primarily use Dark Muse because it does have higher attack stat. But you have your full EP here, so just overclock as much as you can. The average battle lasts about 20 seconds. You can see the timer on the right side specifies the approximate battle time, the menu time, and the total encounters so far. Unfortunately, that last menu time is a little glitched, but most of them are quite accurate. So, we're past the tutorial palace and we are off to the Ark. The timer running above is RTA, the timer below is with loadless. Currently we are using RTA timing in the standings. So we start off picking our 4 treasure cubes. We cannot continue without those. You'll notice that I'm managing my ATB accordingly so that I never get into the red. When you're sliding down a slope or climbing a ladder or even escaping a battle, your ATB increases. So we want to make sure we're always in the blue so we always are able to run. Reloading the ATB in the red is twice as slow. For this first little menu, we had to discard one potion to get enough room. We have 5 more slots, and we will be buying 5 items with 1 EP each from Hope. So we can just escape that tutorial battle. Just continuously skipping cutscenes as best as we can. We start off the bat with 3 Phoenix Stands, which will be sold, and 2 Warrior's Potions. It turns out there's only 2 battles that you truly need a Warrior's Potion to go pretty fast in. Normally the casting time is approximately 3 seconds, so if you're breaking even without casting it, you may as well just get some more money in the form of selling items instead of buffing items. So we warp down first to Luxarian, and we are forced into a quest. Thankfully, it's a quest we don't have to complete. Unfortunately, a lot of options are still locked out to us at this time, so what we need to do is push the time forward. One of the downsides, or in our case upsides, of normal percent is that when you escape a battle, the clock pushes forward 1 hour. So, I was mentioning how some aspects are locked out right now. These will be unlocked when midnight rolls around. So, since we start off the day at 9 PM on this particular day, we just gotta push to midnight by escaping 3 battles. So we do that by attacking the guards straight in front of us and just book it straight to the hotel. Hotel is worth 500 gil, which we certainly have, at least for now. And we're often sleeping until 6 AM to end the day. All days are about a 24-hour cycle, 6 AM to 6 AM, where each in-game minute is about 2.5 seconds real life. So we have to unfortunately talk to Hope about these red items. We'll pick up our last treasure cube for a while and warp back down to continue our quest. So the first thing in front of our noses are these fanatics that spawn. Unfortunately, they spawn at midnight. So what we want to primarily do now is push the time forward, and since we're in front of a hotel, we could do that straight off the bat. Unfortunately, even though we could get the right time, we do not have the proper equipment yet, so let's go fetch that first. Now granted, we do take 10 seconds to run up this stair path to get to Yusnan first, but because of the change in movement, we will be saving about 20 seconds later on. You can cancel out of these text boxes and ability unlocks just by mashing X. So we are going to get one of the most important garbs of our run, the Velvet Bouncer, which will be our major damage dealer for about 90%. Our gil is running a little short, so we'll have to sell some things we don't need, the shield, and these other recovery items. You can choose to make a little left here and pick up the wolf's emblem, but it is optional. We'll be picking it up later ourselves. Just skipping the cutscenes as they come our way. If we find any shinies on the ground, we will be picking those up. Our gil situation about halfway through the run is going to be pretty dire, so any method to gain more gil is much appreciated. These shinies are randomized. You can have bronze, silver, or crystal medals in this area of Houston. So now that we're here, we despawn the guards by veering a left. Talk to this character. Run back to our good pal, the Bandman. Buy our sneak-in ticket. And we will do our first menu, equipping our special garb. Liberator's the stronger sword. Equilibrium over Dark Muse. And we also unequip the Sacramax sword. This could be useful for gil later on. But now that we're fully equipped and at the right time, we could take out these fanatics. But before I do that, I do want to increase my attack for later on in the run, so it's at this stage that I pick up the fighter's emblem for plus 15% strength. You want to attack the guy with that exclamation point on his head. That will throw you into a battle with 3 of these guys. They go down in 9 to 10 blitzes. So instead of following them while playing the stealth game, we can just be aggressive and take them out instantly, letting us sprint to the phone instead of having to wait for them. Now, these 3 shinies are always set, so I know just to pick up this one. The other ones are bronze medals, which, based on the pickups I got in Houston, I don't need. I need approximately 1,000 gil worth of medals by the time I reach the Dead Dunes, and I know I have that with my silver medals already. But the little extra gil won't hurt me. Now, preferably we want to stay in place to complete as much as we can. That's why we come back to this hotel and simply return and push the time forward again towards midnight. Most of Luxarian's quests do happen after that time. We have no further business with Hope for quite a while, so as soon as we regain control, we just go back to our teleporter and go down. So to continue on, we'll start by sleeping to 1. And we are currently at the phone quest, where we have to check our numbers to determine what's the secret passcode. It is randomized every run, but by checking one number, which I kind of struggled here on, we lower our odds to getting it correct into 1 in 9. We know our second and third number after checking that one. The first and fourth is up in the air. The difference between first try and 9th try is approximately 1 minute. You can pick your favorite order. But here I got it 3rd try, just from inaccurate inputs, really. I'm still picking up shinies in the graveyard. It is at this stage that they can actually start becoming gold dusts. And gold dusts are a very rare shiny, one who sells for 4,000 gil. Should I get lucky, I will be able to sell it later on to get a few other buffed equipment. But we continue running through the graveyard here, just avoiding encounters. If we get into any, we cannot defeat them, and we cannot escape. We are too weak right now. So, typical runs, that would mean a reset. It's a game with plenty of reset points, really. Counters when you don't want them. Game not behaving as you expect it to. Cutscene glitches, or it just not despawning things as they should. But having passed through here, we pick up our crest, and instead of teleporting out, we simply continue our run towards Luxarian South. This is now the faster method as compared to previously when we started running from the hotel. Importantly, we have to pick up our membership card here. Because now we can pick up soul seeds, what we needed for a later quest. It is good to get more than one for the same reason I claimed previously. The more we gain, the more we'll be able to trade in for gil. And gil is rather scarce. Our first stop will be Dead Dunes. Unfortunately, we are too weak to take out the Chocobo Eater at this stage. Every time you defeat a major boss battle or complete a major quest, you do gain a significant attack boost. And we have not yet defeated a true boss yet. But we can still continue with our side questing. We buy another important garb here once we replenish our gil. The Passion Rouge with Deprotect. Very important in this game to debuff your enemies. That's how you gain your big damage upon them. For quite a while we'll be running through this desert from one end to the other. You may have noticed a fish there, that would be the Sahagin. The Sahagin is arguably the crux of this run, in that if he does not give you the ability drop you want, there is nothing you can do. You have to reset the game and try again. While I could fight one now, I am still rather weak. The fight will take a significant amount of time. And with this route, we do not need the Imperil drop until almost an hour into the run. So the plan is to fight him when we are much stronger, so the fights will go down faster. Our first statue we activate is the Mere Gods. Running backwards, we also get our Gale Strike and then just continue onward. A new change is that we pick up this ability sphere. This one has a tertiary debuff. Now, I was saying Passion Rouge has D-Protect, but it also has D-Shell. When you combine that with D-Faith and you use it on the turtle enemy Gurungach, that lowers the amount of spells that are required to stagger him, thus making a faster battle. We are going to immediately be picking up 3 cruxes on our first run here, or rather the first day. We are currently on day 3. Activate this statue as well. We'll have to pick up the tablet at a future point in time. So here's another new idea that I'm exercising. You don't truly have to go visit Adonis right now, but you do need to activate this ruffian teleport point rather. So what you could do is simply hit the border and circle back, continuing through your running. Taking this detour also gets us our second crux right here. And we are going to the farthest relevant point of the map, the Atmos Tab Shrine. You'll see some tricks here that I like to keep my ATB as low as possible before I hit the slope. Mentioned previously, we want to keep our running ATB in the blue as much as possible, since it gets freely replenished as we're sliding down, and the sliding down speed is superior to running. That's just a little bit of movement optimization for you. After a slide, you may as well jump out of it. It is faster than waiting for Lightning to regain her normal running speed. Once we pick up our first tablet, we will be teleporting out of here to tackle our first boss. Before doing so, we do have to do the menu. Equipping our trusty Passion Rouge, Gale Strike, and Defaith. Just a little mistakes with the menuing here. So my Gale Strike is buffed. Sadly, it's the incorrect buff. We can either increase our wind damage or our attack strength. For the run, it is better to have higher attack. We default Passion Rouge and head back to Luxarian. These gates are only open past midnight, so we hand in our crest and continue on. Tricky to dodge encounters here, so just be mindful of that. We no longer need the battle axe of the Believer. It's a free weapon somewhere below this maze. Aside from jumping out of slides, it's also useful to jump out of long falls. So our first boss battle, thankfully, there is a trick we can do on this guy. So when he staggers, he has a secondary stagger point. You can get very close to it through 3 Gale Strikes. Doing so allows you to inflict heavy damage, but without actually triggering that second stagger, thus allowing us to defeat this guy with low stats and only a single overclock. His pattern isn't entirely consistent, so a typical battle would be closer to 26 seconds. But with that done, our EP increases by 1, which we'll see when the day ends. We have our hefty attack boost. Let's just pick up the weapon reward and continue with our questing. Back to Dead Dunes. So we'll gain a little bit more gil here. And finally speak to Adonis. We activate our third statue here and use it to come back to the first one, because now we have a mini-boss. The mini-boss is a Gurungach. And since overclocks cost 2 EP, we will be able to use it in this battle. But simply 10 base spells should stagger after the 3 debuffs. You blitz, Gale Strike, and 6 blitzes later. Assuming you can perfect time well enough, he should go down. So we don't need to visit Adonis right away, we can visit him anytime we want. So instead we will hit up another shrine, namely the Dry Floodlands. A minor grievance to this route is that we have this 2 EP, which would theoretically be a free overclock, but there's really no place to use it. There's no fight we can fight here. Our fish, well, they don't spawn after 4 AM, and we are much too late in the day. The reason the route is in this position is that the quickest way to end the day is simply just to let the time run out. So once 6 AM rolls around, we will automatically be teleported back to the Ark. We will have to come back here later, so we'll just activate the statue. The time does get pretty tight, but that's how optimal it's become. So we'll be taking a break from Dead Dunes for a while now. So we will be coming into day 4 now, going to visit our final map, the Wildlands. The game does involve quite a lot of running. So we already know what we are supposed to do. The game wants us to visit Canopus Farms first, but that does turn out to be optional. We can head straight for the mini-boss, the Chocobo Eater. Thankfully, in the main quest storyline, he is significantly weakened, so even with one overclock, we'll be able to take him down. So this guy is more of a brute force method. We debuff him, we buff ourselves, and just lay on the blitzes. Now, the ideal drop would be the ability Magnet. Unfortunately, the odds are less than 25%. Same goes for the ability Blizzara, even though that one we don't really need. We will be picking it up manually. Even in this area, I am still picking up shinies. I am hoping for the gold dust drop. But even if it's not there, I can still sell the other metals I pick up. Now this treasure sphere you see to your left is an Imp's Crest, which will increase your magic, but it does turn out to be optional. You do have the free accessory slot on the Passion Rouge to equip it on should you want. We continue with the quest here, running a little back and forth, handing in greens. We pause a bit here just to let our adventuring essential guy spawn in at the 8 AM mark. We can buy the needed vegetable seeds from him right now. Just 2. Talking to other NPCs to get some other good items that later on we will be using to heal the Chocobo. But we continue running. running through the trees here saves a few seconds. Just trying to take the most direct path to the village. Crystal metal is one of the best drops we can see. You can sell those for 1200 gil. Silver sell for about 600. But now that we're in the forest, we will be hunting out 4 fertilizers. We will start by picking up 2. And before we continue on, we have to talk to this character to continue the side quest. We don't actually hand it in, so we do still have 2 in our inventory. So that there was the 3rd one. We unlock our next teleport point. And importantly, we now have a new garb to buy, the Vengeance. The Vengeance comes with the ability Beat Down. Beat Down has an incredibly high stagger rate. So using that, we'd be able to very speedily stagger certain enemies. We can equip it now because it does have more ATB than the standard garb. Set it to default and continue on. Teleporting to the same general map does appear to be faster most of the time. So we continue on with Wildlands business. Handing over our fertilizers. We are going to need 7 Gazal greens in total, and after Sorala's quest and her plus 5 seeds plus the 2 that we bought, we have our total 7. Seeds take 6 hours to grow. So let's just get some good items we'll need for later on in the run and sleep through. If you are playing on PC, it is wiser to switch your FPS down from 60 into 30 or from dynamic to fixed. Doing so, you'll completely avoid the potential of a Gazal glitch, which could either result in your green not sprouting or just your fertilizer patch not being interactable anymore. But now that we've healed our bird into walking speed, it is still the faster way of moving around, so we'll jump on him right away in order to get to the hotel once more to sleep another 6 hours. And we'll be picking up our 4 final greens here. And as soon as we can, we will feed the rest of them all to the bird. to get into our gliding status. I mentioned before that Null granted us 6 EP. It is particularly useful at this stage because after we are finished the components of our side quest we want to warp out, with 6 EP we can teleport twice, 3 EP each being the cost. We've warped once from Yogg to Wildlands, and we'll be warping again from one end of the map back to Wildlands. Similar to the previous day, we will be trying to end it just on its own without an encounter. You can get into an encounter and push the clock forward an hour, but it will just round up to 6 AM. So there is no need to lose that 10 seconds in an encounter when you could just wait around. So we'll be picking up another important item here, our Fireworm Bracelet. This grants in fire to us for every battle. Coupling this with a later ability, we will end up dishing out quite high amounts of damage. We have to go all the way to one side of the map to pick up one ability again, or specifically one item. This item we'll have to trade in later on to complete a quest. We have no reason to unlock the RES village teleport point. We'll never be going back. But once we get this, we continue on with our questing in Wildlands. All the while trying to keep that running ATB low before we get on the bird, where no more ATB is used. This stage we are going to visit Saz to begin the next main quest, which will take us all around the different maps. But with the route the way it is, everything ends up being on the way. We will pick up this one raw ability, since spells are either tier 1, 2, or 3. We should have at least one tier 2 spell in our arsenal. This will be very helpful for the final boss, plus a few stray battles here and there. The route is such that we can pick this up, and we'll still have enough time before the end of the day. If the timings are too tight for you, or you find yourself with a setup that just seems to lag more, even this one is not perfect, you can still follow the route but give yourself a sort of safety buffer in time and, for instance, sleep to your hotels 1 hour earlier. You can always end the day by finding an encounter and escaping. We will pick up our first out of 5 fragments here and simply wait for the day. Having done that, we can now go back to Euston. We have completed day 4 and are coming down into day 5. So we will right away complete this quest, getting us our second fragment. This is the fastest canvas of prayers Chocolina to visit. We still have our sneak-in ticket bought way back when. We will be using that shortly. Before we get there, let's get this secondary attack boosting accessory. And even for the upcoming mini-boss, we don't really need it. But it does help quite a lot for the final boss. The time is pushed forward for us. No hotel sleep required. But now we get through the Yusnan Maze Part 1, as I call it. The alleyways are pretty thin. It is tough to dodge the enemies, but we do have somewhat of a safety buffer in that you are able to escape from a couple encounters without completely ruining the route time-wise. Here we have a little bit of luck. I managed to pick up a gold dust. So that sort of shiny metal, the odds of picking that up are about 5%. The route isn't such that we have to get it, but thanks to it I am able to buy a secondary attack boosting item later on. So, no encounters in the first part of the maze, that's very good. But we come up to our next mini-boss here, the Cyclops. So the new strategy is actually to beat down 8 times to stagger, and beat down an additional time to actually finish off his HP in one go, assuming you can buffer the Garb correctly. Now, regrettably, I messed that up. I'm supposed to not launch. So I lost about 5 seconds there. Did I say 10 times? I think it's beat down 8 times total. But you want to beat down off of Vengeance and then switch Garbs before the second beatdown and dish it out through Velvet Bouncer for the increased damage. That should kill. Now, I did not get any drops from this Cyclops either, and this one, much like Chocobo Eater, also has the chance to drop Magnet. But the odds are rare, and they were not in my favor this run. So Magnet is incredibly useful for a much later mini-boss we'll have to tackle, but we do have a backup. Here we are going through Maze Part 2, just dodging the enemies as best as we can. Picking up the ID card we picked up just a few minutes ago. As usual practice, try to keep your ATB low when reaching the ladder. With our ID card we can enter through the gate and continue on with side questing. But that is not what we're going to do, because it is at this stage that we still require a very important ability. We require Imperil. Imperil is only dropped by one enemy, the Sahagin, and the Sahagin is only spawning in the Dead Dunes. Now, we are at sufficient strength enough, and we are at a good time of day, so it is at this point that we will be going back to Ruffian and testing out our luck. So the route the way it is, resets are approximately 1 hour in. Reason being is that the odds of dropping Imperil are about 15%. And granted, you are able to fight multiple fish if you see them, but you cannot let your time drown out for too long. Otherwise, you cannot continue with the side quest back in Yusnan. Fortunately, I have received no extra encounters in my Maze Part 1 and 2, so I am in my optimal time zone right now, just after 7 p.m. It is also best to fight the Sahagins in the evening here. They stagger easier and take more damage. So we will see if we could find them on the way to the maze. Just keep the minimap open a bit, since they are easier to spot if they are out of your line of sight. Ideally, we would strike them stealthily to get the minus 25 HP, but no luck this time. Just a combination of blitzes and beatdowns. And we got it first try. Great. The run can continue. the time being as optimal as it is, it lets us hit one shortcut and one mandatory door, both of which are functional at odd hours. So this first door should be reached at around 1950. But I got hit by a stint of bad luck here. Yeah, so since escaping puts me forward 1 hour, I cannot reach this shortcut door, so I have to take this little detour. But we are allowed a grand total of 2 encounters total. That includes in-use non-mains part 1 and 2 and this area. Optimal routes do come with risks, but thankfully there are alternatives to run the game. There are plenty of people around who are willing to help you out. It's not easy to document the proper route through this maze, so I recommend you simply watch and make personal notes for yourself. So here we activate our 5th and final statue. As well, here we get our 4th and final crux. Really, it became a force of habit to pick up 5, but we do only need 4. 3 above the ground and 2 below. Oops, accidental pause there. But we come up to another mini boss here. Much the same strategy as before. It is optional to overclock. but by defeating the mini-boss you gain back 2 EP. Teleporting away will lose you 3. Then you will still have 2 more, which we will be using for 1 battle. Our collector's catalog here is useful for the final boss. Now, because I am still at an even hour, I need to force another encounter, but this will make the total extra encounters 2, and the route still works fine with it. This is our next critical door that must be reached at an odd hour. So this whole stint was intended to go through the maze in one large go. That way we don't have to warp back and do it in parts. Grabbing this second mural, we can continue back with our business in Houston. We have to unequip our Liberator, equip Imperil and the Fireworm Bracelet. Unfortunately, I was a little forgetful here about what I had. But we can continue our fireworks quest, so we get to here. We will accept this side quest because this grants us 5 fireworks. In total, we are going to need 10. I could have saved some time if I imperiled, but I believe I forgot that. But with 0 EP and on day 5 we have no more business here, so we sleep to the next day. Now we want to be in Houston on day 6 mainly because that is when the forge opens up with some seriously high attack items, or equipment I should say. We have 2, we have 5, now we will get our final 3 here. And now we have to run all the way back. We cannot teleport because we need all the EP we can get. It is this last stint of running where you can pick up shinies off the ground. Because we are going to be selling everything we don't need on this upcoming shop. We normally sell our Liberator, Scaramax, and a bunch of medals, but because I have my gold dust, I was able to hold on to the Liberator for, sadly, no real reason. Another kind of slow shop. But I was able to buy 1 Kikuichi Manji and 2 Dragon Gauntlets. We have to do this immediate menu before the slaughterhouse. Preferably we would have Magnet and be able to blitz more of them together, but just use whatever attacking moves you have. We debuff here, 3 blizzards, and 1 jump, just about kills. More perfect times would make that more consistent. We throw in our 2 debuffs and try and go for the jump, because that instantly staggers. Be sure to use that end frost damage for additional. But that's our slaughterhouse and our third fragment. We need to equip this for the story to continue. But for the meantime, we'll just keep running. The time will push forward again. And we are coming up to the maze part 3 of Yuznan. But before that, let's take a little detour. We will be picking up an item that increases our attack for every battle, the Thorn of Bravery. The way the time works out in this routing is that we are allowed one encounter in this last part of the maze. Having that, the day will be able to run out on its own before we tackle the boss. Nonetheless, it's a long maze, so be wary. As a side note, you do want Shadowhunter on your Midnight Malve garb. Often enough, the enemies are small and can be dodged with relative ease, but other times this guy pops up. There's nothing I can do. But I am allowed one escape, so I just continue on. Soul seeds I don't need anymore, I handed them in way back when. It's the same maze right now as the tutorial. And now we continue to a new part of Maze 3. Unfortunately, the camera likes to play tricks with us here, so it's very difficult to reorient yourself. Now, this is a detour you do not have to take, but there is an extra strike ability here, Flame Strike. It's possible you can get an attack boost. Since I have to open up the menu anyways, I try and equip it, but it's not buffed, so no need for that. I simply equipped my Thorn of Courage and the Femme Fatale on garb number 3, the Passion Rouge. Now we come to a little bit of a skip, which we call the Snow Box Skip. By angling yourself correctly, you can actually skip about 7 seconds of running around and hit the button right away to continue. Now we come on to another forced battle. Most of the time these guys will be in Chaos, but in this time the Chaos Cloud did not spawn, so I was able to go a little faster. Simply debuff, blitz, and overclock. This is all still in day 6. The 4 EP used in the Slaughterhouse were the 2 Zaltai, and the last overclock used in this battle. And the day would end normally around here, but these enemies got me. Not a huge deal. But we are, as it looks like, about the 80-minute mark of the run, so I can get rid of the background music. And go back to game audio very soon. Another accidental pause. So rest of the run is with game audio, microphone, and whatever background noise I have going. Okay, now our second boss battle, Mr. Snow. We debuff, we block his attacks, more importantly, block this one. That way he can stagger in 3 Furas. And just keep using OC. It's the fastest way to win. Blitz is very good. Another attack boost, and we could go straight for our next boss down the list. Now, granted, we cannot defeat it in one overclock, so what we'll do is take another hotel sleep. We sleep to 4 AM since the days will end in the temple. And we take our final shop here to get some final goodies for the endgame. But this is the last major maze of the game, and the point where it has the highest rate of encounters. Thankfully, we are not too restricted on time here, and we can escape as much as we want. Just continue talking to the Yules and hopping across the platforms. There's only one item you need to pick. And that item is as a result of the no magnet drop this attempt.
Much is obvious, but why is she here? Is she just a fragment of the chaos? Is she a mirage conjured up by the forces in the temple? She was reborn over and over again until Kai has managed to break the cycle. She should be dead, but instead she's alive inside this great chaos. Did you hear me talking to someone?
No, I just got no answer when I tried to contact you, so I wondered.
Puddings are the most likely source of an encounter. So depending on your time, you will probably escape and end the day then and there. But we will be warping down to day 8. Not a problem, as the game grants us 12 generous days to complete everything, and we will have time to spare.
You survived another.
Okay, now here is the next potential maze skip, called the Caius maze skip. Unfortunately, the setup is quite tricky, and odds are you'll be hit by this guy if you fail it the first time. So I do try it a few times. Significant time sink. But if you line yourself up correctly and face the right way, you can make this jump, saving about 7 seconds of running.
Hard to imagine what it's like. For millennia, Yules were born into the world over and over. It's not as though they shared the same soul. They weren't the same person in every incarnation. Each Yule was different, but each of her souls was born with the very same heavy burden. And as each soul returned to the chaos, it was drawn to the others. Now, they've become one. Can't you disgust me?
Your escape just now cost you an hour here in the world.
Anything aside from the puddings are fairly straightforward to dodge. Here's our backup that we need, Eroga.
And in your condition, you won't survive another encounter with him. Try to heal as you go. Be careful, Light. You were able to escape for now, but it lost you an hour of the world's time.
Since we started a new day here, we have plenty of hours. Escaping won't really punish us. And with 7 EP, we will be able to take down the next boss rather easily, if I do say so.
Hope, listen carefully. I know whose power it was that destroyed the world. The souls of all the Yules. They've grown together like a cancer. They are the unseen chaos.
The souls of Yule? The Cirrus?
Yes, those poor girls were destined to die before they could grow old. Their feelings and thoughts became part of the chaos, made it powerful, gave it purpose. They're bending it to their will. And if it's released, it'll destroy everything we're
But here comes Caius.
destiny.
Same pattern as before.
End this once and for all.
Debuff and attack with overclocks. You are already buffed with your bravery and end fire, so no more need for potions. Be sure to pick up that sword. Equip it right off the bat if you like. Going to need a Roga relatively soon. But there is one more side quest we need to finish up before we can complete the main quest in Dead Dunes, and that is a third tablet for a third mural.
Fighting together.
And having obtained that, there's nothing left for us to do today. Any bosses have to be taken with full EP, so we go to sleep.
Good to see you again.
Warping back down into day 9. But we will have to push our day forward. We have too much time to use. It is optional to buy the Wyvern Lance from the forge here, if you wish for extra stagger power.
You have an hour before you will be transported to the Ark.
Sometimes you will get a little Cactuar warp glitch and it will say your statue is unactivated. Just the anomalies of the PC route.
The completed croc should open the sacred gate. You've almost made it to the holy Clavis itself.
Splits have been all over this place during the run, mainly because there are multiple routes I take.
We've gone and done it. No way to go but forward now.
Stick together and we can do it.
Perandus is weak to arrow, so we equip that while he's doing his little animation. Fortunately, I got a little bit of a launch there. But aside from that, that was very good stagger.
The magic that was sealing the door is fading away now. You can try to chase them, but the Clavis is halfway back to Luxarian now.
After activating that little cutscene, we can warp out. We have one more side quest we didn't finish in Wildlands. We can do that now, as it is late at night. We can visit our Moogle village.
There's really not much time left until you need to return to the Ark.
Take a little shortcut here by jumping off the route straight into the center of the village. Now we have 3 rudimentary battles here. We do have a lot of attack on our side, and thanks to Fireworm, that extra fire damage is gonna do havoc on these guys who are weak.
I saw this coming.
We are looking for drops,
Looking for a partner?
but what we want is Aurora primarily.
I will fight evil.
I got it here, thankfully. Having 2 raw spells, or tier 2 spells for the final boss, does come in handy.
Hey, come back!
So, the time being almost at the end of the day, just need to hope that this guy doesn't keep us dragging too long. But no problems here. And that ends our day 9.
Are you doing okay?
We have one more side quest to accomplish in Dead Dunes, and that is defeating the Cactuar. This guy is holding on to our fifth and final fragment, or rather fourth fragment. Now, ideally, we would have Magnet here, and in this case, we simply just hold down the appropriate ability button and let it fly. That is the fastest way to take him down, but luck was not on my side. So I will have to use the backup.
I don't plan on losing.
It starts out well enough, but he eventually starts attacking and counterattacking you. Each hit is only 1 damage. And another thing is that his launch is very long. Nothing you can do but wait. Difference between having Magnet and not having it is about 20 seconds. But we can only overclock twice because we want to teleport back to Ruffian. We did get a reward from that Moogle side quest. That reward is what gets exchanged for the final dodge fragment. Now that we have them all, we could finish off the final main quest with Saz, but with no EP we can't exactly get there yet. So we'll sleep to the next day.
Are you doing okay?
Though we only need 3 EP for this day, there's still no point in going to Hope an extra time to buy something.
Finally!
We'll still be plentiful on materials for the upcoming endgame. Find our trusty bird and bring it on home. With nothing left to do, we just sleep our troubles away. One more day to go.
You survived another day.
But with one day to go and nothing to do, we still have EP we want to use, so we just sink in all 8 EP to buy 4 Heroes Potions. But the endgame begins on day 13, so we sleep once more. With our final day, there are 2 final treasure cubes we want to pick up. Decoy and our super guards. We will only be using 2 of these. But Dark Muse now outdamages our previous Velvet Dancer. Equilibrium also has decent attack. Passion Rouge has to stay the same. You can change the shield if you so choose for the slight boost in ATB. But overall, a lot of poor menuing in the run. If it was more optimal, could have been saving about 20 seconds from that alone.
Camille, please, open your eyes.
It's up to you which garb you choose to have default now, but muscle memory dictates that I keep it on Dark Muse, and that also has to be garb number 1.
Get to the cathedral before the ceremony starts.
But we get to our first battle of the endgame, the Super Guards. What we do is a Super Guard skip though, so by staggering the first one into a confused state, he will not trigger reinforcements to call more guards onto the battlefield, thus allowing us to freely kill the second one and then the first one again. 4 Blizzaras and a Heavy Slash does the trick. We are almost done with the running simulation, but
Your wishes die here.
please hang in there.
looks of this, someone beat me to the party. Great. The dead are being summoned already. The chanting is getting louder. I must be getting close. I should have guessed. You all right, Lightning? Almost missed.
One more mini-boss here. And debuff. Cast some Blizzaras to increase the stagger wave. He is weak to Encrost, so stagger him first, overclock, and just spam your heavy slash. Older strats would go behind him for extra damage, but the time loss is no longer worth it. If you overclock early enough, you could get a lot of damage on the head early on. And the final non-boss battle is here, straightforward, just debuff and heavy slash. If you can, try and perfect time your heavy slashes. You could do that off of the attack from Equilibrium Plus.
Benevalza, you took everyone. Are they hostages to keep me in line? I don't care if you're God himself. I'm taking them back. I swear to you.
So we are coming up to the final boss of the game. I am going in with no attack buffs. That second tier 2 spell, Aurora, I was talking about, it is useful for phase 4. But this guy, 4 phases in total, fittingly is also the hardest boss of the game. You have to be dynamic with your strategy and respond to whatever he does on you.
If I kill the God of Light, I become the Goddess of Death.
But we start off by throwing our Vigilance Potion on. This will at least prevent us from being interrupted or staggered from Benevalza's attacks. We debuff. A few raw spells. And most of the time we're just trying to attack and heavy slash with the occasional re-debuff. After a stagger, you could unleash your overclock. So even though I'm not being interrupted, I am still taking damage. That's why my HP is so low. But we get to phase 2. This is where you need to be very specific about what you do. You can run up to him with an attack, followed by a decoy, which will fortunately cast it behind him, and additionally, because this is on PC, we'll let it fall through the floor. So, having the Fearless Potion on after phase 1 gives me all the buffs I need. I have an arrow going as well. Yes, Imperil, Protect, and if you do enough damage, you can skip the Wings of Destruction.
I will
I did accidentally cancel a heavy slash before in order to cast a potion, so my ATB is not perfectly managed for this battle. Ideally, you also want to get what is called positional damage on the Velza. So if you're attacking the side or the back, you'll be inflicting higher numbers of damage. Unfortunately, without moving around manually, it's really up to how randomly he moves. Like in this case, I was stuck in front of him, and even though he's attacking the decoy, I am still taking damage from sort of area damage. But if he goes down by the time he buffs himself up again, that is good. So this fourth phase, you are not doing damage, you just need to stagger him ASAP. Soon enough, he will kill your decoy, even if it is invisible to you. But you need anywhere between 15 and 18 raw spells, using Femme Fatale. Feel free to use some Gale Strikes and Thunders as well, just to keep the damage going consistently and the stagger wave non-decaying. Thankfully, Heartless Angel and Laser Beams Underground are the best. So once he staggers, simply inflict your 2 debuffs, make sure your 5 buffs are still on, and perfect time heavy slashes for maximum damage. And that is the game. That is Lightning Returns Final Fantasy XIII normal percent in sub 2 hours. I am Dewins. Thank you for viewing.